Vincent Goodwill Jr. III, Yahoo Sports senior NBA writer, host of the Good Word podcast on Yahoo Sports, Ball Don't Lie, and SiriusXM NBA host. And he joins us after doing a deep dive on Kevin Durant going to the Rockets. Why is Kevin Durant on the Rockets?
Because he wants to be. I think that's the easy explanation to say that is because clearly amongst the teams that he listed, the Rockets were the team that looks to be a Kevin Durant away with the young talent, the coaching, the pedigree from being a real threat in the Western Conference. Like Amen Thompson is real. And then Alperen Şengün, I don't know how he fits in this iteration with Kevin Durant, but he's a talented player. Jabari Smith, like they have so many young pieces and still so many young unearthed pieces yet to be explored that you add KD there. If he is a reasonable semblance of what he's been, they're a real threat in the Western Conference next season.
How does Phoenix not get Thompson or Reed Shepherd or like, it felt like the Rockets were like, wait a minute, who do you want in this trade? Sure, we'll do that.
That is the art of negotiation, Dan. That is where the player sometimes controls exactly what iteration appears for him because he wants to go to a team that still has enough players. Like, look, Thompson's going to be a non-starter. And what works against Phoenix here is that Kevin Durant is 36 years old, and the max he can sign for an extension is going to be 2 years. Dan, we don't have a precedent for a player who's had a Liz Frank. Remember that. That's the Liz Frank is what got Bill Walton. And Achilles injury, which is what Tyrese Halliburton had. And an MCL. People forget he had an MCL his first full year or second full year in Brooklyn. There's no precedent for the longevity of these old guys being able to hang around and play at a championship level. So you do have to find a way to mitigate some of that risk. Like, I know the numbers look great on paper, 50, 40, 90 across the board, but it looks different, Dan. If you go look at Kevin Durant in 2014, before his first real injury, when he put up 50 against the Golden State Warriors, he looked so fluid. That athleticism popped off the page. Now he's a guy who's going to be 37 years old. And once again, there's no template for this. We don't have any precedent for this. So we don't know what this is going to look like or what it's supposed to look like.
I'm going to ask you the question that you asked in your column. Is this his last stop or just his next stop?
Well, Dan, it's hard to say because I thought Brooklyn was going to be the last stop. I thought Phoenix was going to be the last stop. So I'm not going to box in Kevin Durant. I would just say it feels more likely. I don't know if Kevin Durant wants to be LeBron James, playing until he's 42, 43, 55 years old to claim every record or whatever it is for this mythical argument. I think Kevin Durant's going to play as long as his body tells him that he can play and he can play meaningful basketball. You can only judge these guys 2 years at a time because that's the length of their contracts. These dudes going to their 40s, Dan. They need to be like sitting up somewhere next to you, reminiscing about the good times. They don't need to be out there chasing around these 40-year-olds, these 25-year-olds. What's their problem?
The Achilles injuries, coincidence or something more to it?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think what we cannot quantify, Dan, is the amount of miles that these players have on their bodies well before they get to the NBA. We think of their odometer starting once they get to the league. That's not the case at all. When you're playing AAU basketball, all those games a day, the personal training, and here's the other thing. This is the age of specialization. These guys aren't playing football, baseball, track, all these other things to work different muscles. They're playing one sport and it's starting that mile trajectory really, really early. I don't know how to do that. I do know this. The next time someone has a calf injury late in the season, sit their ass down.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. But I said it last week. I said, you're not careful, you're going to tear your Achilles. And we've seen this with Durant. We've seen this with Dame. We've seen this with Tatum. I don't know. It just feels like there's something else. Now, granted, Aaron Rodgers wasn't doing anything, just back to pass. Dan Marino, when he tore his, just going back to pass. So it's not all these are incredible athletes and they're cutting and all the mileage on their. It's weird, that it can happen to a quarterback just going back to pass.
I mean, here's the thing. Something's always going to be hurting on you as an athlete. And usually it's around your calf or it's tendonitis or it's something that you're used to managing. I'm not sure. Dan Marino tore his in what, 93, if I remember correctly, or 94. So he's like 10 years into his career. That's not necessarily common. Dame Lillard, that's an old man injury for him.
Okay.
Isaiah Thomas, that's an old man injury. Dominique Wilkins, old man injury. These other guys, it's not old. Tyrese Halliburton is some, explosive athlete that's jumping around. But when you have a calf injury, remember, Luka Doncic had a calf injury in Dallas that we kind of wondered, okay, is he in good enough shape and all these other type of things. All these injuries aren't created equal. They aren't birthed by the same things, but they do produce the same risk. And we have to look at them like this is a risk, especially when you're playing 100 games into a season. And Dan, the game is moving so fast. That's where you got to be careful.
Talking to Vincent Goodwill. He is a Yahoo Sports senior NBA writer. His latest article has to do with Kevin Durant with the Rockets. I'm curious about the Spurs if they're taking Dylan Harper. So that backcourt's pretty crowded. So I got the Rookie of the Year, I got De'Aaron Fox, and it feels like somebody is not going to be long for San Antonio. What are the Spurs going to do?
Well, talking to people around the league, the Spurs are the team that they're like, okay, keep an eye on them because the Spurs like to keep things close to the vest. They're not going to go out and telegraph their moves. Remember, we didn't see the De'Aaron Fox trade happening. They were like, they already got a young guard there, and then he added another one, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. Like there have been instances where, I don't know if you remember this, Dan, the Phoenix Suns of 97 had Kevin Johnson, a young Steve Nash, and Jason Kidd. And it wound up working out that, KJ was a little bit older. Steve Nash was a little bit unfounded at the time. And you kind of let these things work themselves out. You take the best player available. Like I'm not a believer in reaching, but I am a believer in the Spurs having number 2 and number 14. I think they had number 2 hoping that Kevin Durant would pick them and they would use that as far as draft capital in a trade. But now that they don't, I wonder if they're going to take. I don't see that being a tenable thing. But also, this is supposed to be a positionless league. Ain't that what they tell us? I don't believe that, mind you. I don't believe it's a positionless league. I think that's a bunch of bull.
It is amazing, though, when you look back on the Phoenix Suns, you had 3 Hall of Fame point guards. I don't think KJ's a Hall of Famer, but he played like a Hall of Famer at times. Jay Kidd and Steve Nash. But you're right. Nobody knew about Nash. I remember being at a practice facility and watching Nash, and I go, that's the kid from Santa Clara. Like, he's pretty good. And then they said, well, he won't play here. He won't start here. And then all of a sudden he goes to Dallas, and next thing you know, he's somebody unique. But you didn't worry about salaries back then, Vincent. Now I got De'Aaron Fox. What's he going to cost me? Although I get Castle and Harper on, rookie deals, De'Aaron Fox is going to cost me a lot of money. So it feels like he might be the guy jettisoned here.
Well, you just got him. Like, that's the thing. You just got him.
But I think if you knew that you were going to end up with the second pick, they wouldn't have made the move probably for him. If they knew they were going to be in this situation, I like him, but if I can get younger and I don't have to spend money, I thought they were going to get Durant. I thought that they realized that he can help us. He can take pressure. He can be a bucket. But they're not yet where the Rockets are. And the Rockets might be a year away. San Antonio feels like maybe 2 years away from being, here they come.
Well, Victor's coming. And I think there's a difference between Victor's coming and the Spurs are coming. I think they're on 2 different, kind of a little bit different timelines.
Will he be the best player in the game in 5 years?
If not him, who? Are you kidding me?
Well,
He's the best defensive player.
Shai Gilgeous is going to be there for a little while, whether you believe that. But it feels like, by 25, I think I said that he'll be the best player in the sport. Victor.
I mean, why won't he be the best player in the sport 2 years from now? Why won't he be the best player in the sport next year? Like it. Do you see what he's doing? He's out there with the monks. He
What?
looks like Eddie Murphy in The Golden Child. You remember that movie?
Yeah,
like
that was a bad
that's
movie.
What he looks like.
That was a bad movie. Good reference, bad movie. But yeah, he's with the Tibetan monks there. But yeah, I'm a big fan because he should have been Defensive Player of the Year the last 2 years. But I just wonder, can the team keep up with him? Because that's
he's not going anywhere. And here's the thing.
No, but the talent around him, can they keep up with him as he develops? So Castle, can he shoot better? Is Harper going to be, a true, go-to guy? Who else do you have on that team who's going to help you? So that would be my only concern with that.
No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think they have pieces that you can move, the Jeremy Sohans, the Keldon Johnsons, guys like that if you're talking about packaging players and figuring stuff out, if you want to press the fast forward button. But until a player goes into his first rookie extension, and if you think about this like the NFL, where if you get a quarterback on a rookie contract and you start putting in those veteran pieces around him, like Seattle did with Russell Wilson like a decade ago, that's what the NBA is turning into now. Where if you get a guy on the first contract or the first rookie extension, that's when you start building a championship team. That's why you have all these teams sort of positioning themselves to make runs now before guys get really, really expensive. I wouldn't be surprised if the San Antonio Spurs put all their chips to the center of the table, but traditionally, that's not how they have operated.
Yeah. All right. What's the better version of Michael Jordan, young Mike or old Mike? Or veteran veteran Mike? I'll give you the first 5 years of the next 5 years.
Oh, it's that middle five. It is 89 to 93 Michael Jordan. And I don't think it's particularly close. Like in 89, he was scary, just like the triple doubles, and he was going into his body, and he took that really not good Bulls team to the Eastern Conference Finals, where he took 2 games off of a Detroit team that didn't lose to anybody else that series. And then the next year, you could see he was really coming and really going to show up. And then when you run off 3 in a row, and I know that the bad boys were old and Magic carried a bunch of dudes who were Magic in the who's who of who in 1991 to the NBA Finals. He didn't have a direct equal because of Len Bias and because of the calendar, but there was no greater player we've ever seen in this league's history besides Michael Jordan between 1989 and 1993. Now, the 1997 Michael Jordan, the adult-grown Michael Jordan, that guy put up the best NBA Finals we've ever seen. Legit, from game to game, from the flu game to the triple-double to the game winner in game 1, performance by performance, that's the best NBA Finals we've ever seen as far as game-to-game effect. That was a 32, 33-year-old Michael Jordan.
Okay.
You can take your pick.
Okay, but
it don't matter. You're not losing.
Is Michael the first and second best player of all time? If I look at what he was in 89 and what he was in 96, 97.
Well, I will tell you this, and this is something someone told me, so it's not original. Michael Jordan is so great, he went into the Hall of Fame as 2 players, himself and Scottie Pippen.
Wow, that's cold-blooded. I
am from Detroit, Dan.
Oh, okay.
We do call Scotty Sitting Bull around here.
Gilbert Arenas said that he can't believe that people treat Kobe like he was his sidekick when he was with Shaq in that three-peat there. Is that fair to say that he shouldn't have been viewed as Shaq's sidekick?
I think the problem is revisionist history has sort of made people go to the stat sheet and said, man, Tracy McGrady was a really good player. He could have done what Kobe did. No, he couldn't have. Like, Kobe actually carried the Lakers in some of those playoff series. Now, 2000, Kobe wasn't fully grown. He was still 21 years old, I think 22 years old, and he was still battling a little bit of inconsistency and finding himself. But by 2001, no. By 2001, he was arguably the best player in the game. Like, the way he dominated that San Antonio Spurs series in the Western Conference Finals, where he was taking 40-point games on the road against Tim Duncan and David Robinson and going to the basket and dunking on them. No. There is, as much as there is, Dan, a big gap between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And I think there is a huge gap between those 2 players. There's even as greater of a gap between Kobe Bryant and anybody else that you feel like you can put in those spots, because Shaquille O'Neal needed somebody, and he just didn't need a Vince Carter or Tracy McGrady. Like, those guys were great, great players, but Kobe had an appetite and an all-around complete game, especially defensively, where he would really get after it. I think, it's funny, when he died, it was almost like there was an overarching sort of reach to put him in a certain spot. And now all of a sudden we're going to downplay it. No. Can we just bring it a little bit to the middle? I'm not going to say Kobe Bryant's rings didn't count. Like, if you're not the number one guy, don't count, whatever. Because Magic Johnson played with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Whose rings were those in 1980, 1982, and 85? Like, I don't want to parse that and turn that discussion into something that is not.
I mentioned this, and I'll leave you with this, with OKC, that I know we want to fast track them to being a great team of all time, which they're not. You went to Game 7 twice. You had to hold off the biggest underdog in the last 25 years, according to the odds makers. It took a guy blowing out his Achilles. You hold on. You won. We might look differently at this OKC team in 3 years with what happens. They could be the Toronto Raptors, or they might have some sustainability here, which I hope they do, and they probably should, but I think we want to have that coronation of this is one of the great teams of all time. Great regular season. Denver took them to 7. Indiana took them to 7. And that's why I would just say enjoy your parade, enjoy your title. Don't put them in there with the 01 Lakers or the 86 Celtics, or they're not there. But that's okay. What do you think?
I think the difference between all of those teams that you mentioned, some of the single season greatest teams, 86 Celtics, 87 Lakers, 83 76ers that only won one championship, 01 Lakers, all those teams have gone through multiple playoff runs, winning, losing, everything else. This is their second playoff run together, Dan. And that's where you can look at it and say, man, do they still have more room to grow? And you don't know in today's NBA, especially with them being in Oklahoma City, and we don't know how they're going to handle Jalen Williams coming up for a max, Chet Holmgren coming up for a max, and having all those draft picks and figuring out the economics of the game there. But we've had 7 different champions in the last 7 years. Then we say the same thing about Milwaukee. Oh, they're going to go on a run. Boston, they're going to go on a run. Denver, they got Nikola Jokic, the best player in the game. They're going to go on a run. The game moves faster than ever, quicker than ever. I'm with you. I think they are one of the best single season teams we've ever seen. It remains to be seen if they have as long of a runway. What if, Dan, they are the San Antonio Spurs, where they never go back to back, but they win championships over a 15-year period, where the 99 team looks totally different than the 07 team, looks totally different than the 2014 team, but there's a common denominator and a common thread there. We would still say they are wildly successful, especially in today's NBA.
Well said. Vincent Goodwill, Yahoo Sports senior NBA writer, host of the Good Word podcast on Yahoo Sports, and Sirius XM NBA host. Great to talk to you as always. Thank you, bud.
Always. I love the living for the city.
Oh, all right. A little Stevie Wonder, living for the city. Got a little T-shirt going on there. I see what you're doing. Thank you, Vince. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we play fill in the blank. We have an Achilles tear theory and more of your phone calls.